All right, we are now on item number 11, the Yuba City Economic Development District Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy and 2020 CEDS Annual Performance and Evaluation. And we are joined tonight by Brenda Stranix, Yuba City Economic Corporation President and Chief Operations Officer, and Cynthia Roderick, CEDS Committee Chair.
Good evening. Thank you, Council, Mayor, for having us here this evening. We always appreciate an opportunity to come and update the Council on what's been happening with and around the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. So the vision for this strategy is to foster a vibrant, prosperous, and growing Yuba City region through exceptional leadership and involvement of the community. And that's the whole crux of why we do the strategy on a regional level, so that we can gain the buy-in, the advice, the concerns of the entire region. So I'm just going to briefly update you. It's a lot of numbers. I believe you all got it in your packet. But the very end has some pretty interesting data that coming out of COVID or working through 2020 that had a pretty significant impact on the region. So employment growth was obviously down in 2020 over 19. Labor force was up a tiny bit. Unemployment was obviously up. But the good piece to this slide is that annual wages were also up this year with a pretty significant growth, nearly 5%. So we're excited to see that. Poverty levels are trending down, which is a good thing. Median household income is trending up. And the GDP 2018 over 2019, which is the most current numbers we could get, is up a bit as well. So again, we had a crazy 2020, but it looks like there were some positive things that came out of it as well. So here's where I have my greatest concern. Our high school graduation and diploma rates are abysmal. We have got to figure out what is going on in our school systems and getting these kids educated. It changes a bit at the bachelor degree level and the postgraduate degree level. But all the way through associates, we've got to figure out what the secret sauce is and get these kids graduated and moving through an education. So each year, well, every 5 years, and we did it in 2020, we developed the big 5-year strategy. We came before you all adopted that and participated in it. And then each year we go through and we determine if we're meeting the goals and the objectives of the action items that were included in that. And in Yuba City, staff reported that one of the noticeable goals and achievements that aligned with the CEDS tactics, now mind you, you have lots and lots and lots of projects across the city, but we have to line them up with what the objectives were from the plan, was to improve and modernize infrastructure, promote transit planning to move people throughout the region, and housing development. And as you're all aware, there was a big approved Richland housing project. My goodness, I just went right through it, huh? Can you get me back? That was adopted and ready to get started here fairly soon within the city of Yuba City. Thank you, ma'am. Back one more. There you go. I can't go back with this, huh? So here's what I wanted to kind of talk about post-COVID, or we're still, I guess, mid-COVID to some degree. As you all know, we had an immediate response to our business community. This is something that I'm very proud of. We developed and sprung up a loan program for businesses in the region. We had checks in the hands of folks by April 13th for Yuba City and Sutter County businesses. We were far and ahead of the PPP and the EIDL, the SBA money that came into the community. And for many of those businesses at April 13, they weren't sure they were going to survive, another 30 days. So they were grateful for those checks. Of the 14 businesses that were funded in Sutter County with that Sutter County loan program, 12 were in the city of Yuba City, 2 were outside in the unincorporated areas. Eventually, through the CARES Act funding at the county, Of that $250,000, we were able to forgive of the 250,000, we were able to forgive 210 of that. All but one is paid in full, and the remaining balance is very low, and they're paying to term. So super excited about that. We also did 3 rounds of grant funding through the CARES Act, 134 grants totaling $2.8 million. Again, the majority of those grants were to Yuba City-based businesses, 104, and received about $2.3 million. And then along came the PPP, or the SBA Payroll Protection Program. 1,053 businesses were assisted, representing 9,874 jobs. That was $47 million went into the city of Yuba City in the hands of local business owners. These loans were forgivable, and the majority of them have been forgiven. We will get data as that progresses, but total of $55 million in the county, nearly $56 million. Then we had the Payroll Protection Loan Program. Another $114 million in the county were funded, $93 million within the city of Yuba City, affecting about 14,700 jobs. Then the EIDL, or Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, came around, so another $24 million landed in the county, with $22 million of that landing in the city of Yuba City. I'm getting to my point here. Then the California Relief Grant Program came, and at the time this was produced, this PowerPoint, 160 businesses were assisted with another $2 million, and some nonprofits. And I guess my real takeaway or what I want you all to be aware of, is that there was a total of $203 million so far. This doesn't even count the second rounds of EIDL or PPP, to Sutter County businesses, and 168 million of that got placed in the hands of our Yuba City businesses. So we were glad to be a part of all of that. We continue to help our businesses through the forgiveness program or the new grants that are coming out, et cetera. I will say that most of our businesses are doing pretty well. Some of them have exceeded, and I know some of you know this firsthand, have exceeded their projections by a long shot during all of this. They were very flexible, and they were able to kind of pivot and take advantage of some of the opportunities that this crazy thing left us. We still struggle. Our biggest struggle right now is workforce. I know you all know it. You're all feeling it. You're hearing it from our local businesses. We've got to get people back to work and stop incentivizing folks to stay home. That's all I really want to report. That's our view from the perspective of Yuba City Economic Development Corporation. We're here to answer any questions this evening, or if you have things you want to talk about and discuss, we're happy to do that as well.
Thank you, Brenda. I'll turn it over to the council for any questions, comments.
Thank you. Brenda, it's very encouraging to see that many local businesses and the help that they received, and I know your office is small but mighty with the team that you have, right? So in all those numbers that you presented, did EDC have input in the multiple, or were you just aggregating the data of, how this is rolling in, or were you, can you kind of clarify on that, how many of those businesses you actually supported in the process and worked them through, if you have any of that kind of information?
Sure. So we were instrumental in, number one, developing the initial emergency loan program for both counties. We stood that up fairly quickly, and like I said, we had checks in the hands of folks in mid-April, prior to mid-April. We administered that. We underwrote all the loans. We secured all the loans. We did every bit of it. We produced all the loan documents, et cetera. That's, we're pretty used to that. It was a different kind of underwriting criteria than we're used to. But we did all of that, and between the two counties and the city of Marysville, who put up a pot of money as well, I think we did about 35 of those loans immediately. Then in the 2 rounds of Yuba County CARES Act grants and the 3 rounds of Sutter County grants, and then we also administered 2 rounds of nonprofit grants for Sutter County, we probably touched and looked behind the scene of about 1,800 businesses locally. It was pretty intense, pretty amazing. That money started rolling out in July of 2020, and we've made final payments on the Sutter County side in January or the first part of February. So we really spaced it out, and there was an intent to that. We knew we weren't going to understand what the real nut to this thing was going to be for most businesses for a while. Some had other sources of special funding, others did not, but we kind of phased out or phased in the funding so that we could truly get an understanding of where those businesses were. By the time we distributed the final Sutter County, I want to say it was about $1.5 million. That was in January, February this year. We were really starting to see that businesses, thankfully, happily, could not show a net loss of a loss of net revenue. So that means they were doing a couple things. One, either they were doing well on the revenue side, or they had learned to manage their expenses very well. One of the things that we did through all of the process, not just, I don't want to get into the weeds, but we really helped businesses understand the importance of looking at their profit and loss statement. What do their numbers mean? What are you looking at a balance sheet? What does any of that mean? So many of our young or small, very small businesses just did not have any idea. They saw a loss in revenue, not understanding that they also had less expenses, and they were hyperventilating and didn't know what to do because they knew they weren't hitting their revenue numbers, when in fact they had scaled down their business so that they could support it, and they were actually making more money month over month than they did the year before. So it's been a really, it's been very enlightening for us to understand where the needs of the community are. We quickly also stood up in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, we provided some funding to the Chamber to help host some webinars, and some of you have participated in those, and we got basic information out. We then surveyed the businesses, we understood what they needed, what they wanted, and we developed other webinars that they were able to participate in. We're hands-on with them in everything from, their financials to marketing to client leads, all the way across the board. It just depends on what the business is actually needing. Our businesses I'm very proud of them. They were very resilient through this, and like I said, many of them are doing very, very well.
And I'm sure that has to do a lot with your work and Cynthia and the rest of your team to help them, assure their ability to stay open and continue. The other part that is, I guess, you and I have had these conversations even before I was elected, concerning, and I haven't, the idea that we have those low education rates in our community, that is really concerning to me as a council person, and recognizing that ties in directly to workforce, that ties into opportunity. The encouraging part of it is that we saw the poverty rate decrease a little, which is good, but still we're not really that high. We're pretty low comparable to the nation or California as I was reading the report, but if that's shifted or changed, please help me understand that. But I think that's part of the limitation, perhaps part of it. Obviously, COVID and other things have just created larger issues for communities. That poverty, the low education rates can determine a very skilled or unskilled labor, and probably not enough what we need.
We could just figure out a way to incentivize our youth to get their education at the high school level, go on and get an associate's degree at the community college level, and then figure out what they want to do with that. I mean, we've been able to incentivize people to not do it. I think we need to figure out how we can incentivize them to do it. And I don't mean you necessarily have to buy people homes just to get them to do that. I mean, we have to figure out how to touch them and when to touch them and get them on the right track. And I think Dr. Dodson's in the room tonight. We work closely with her as well, and so we're hoping that we're going to see some changes at our community college level. We already have seen some, but really it's just getting them motivated, the youth, motivated to hit those milestones and those goals.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Through the mayor. Brenda, thanks for being here, and I just wanted to highlight on some of the things you hit and say thank you to the EDC as a member of the board, but as a member of this council. We all learned to navigate during COVID, and I know that the EDC pivoted and did a lot of things instead of just administering the loan program for the county. But you talked about those workshops, and it was really a team effort across the board because we brought in and we had the chamber, we had the SBA, myself, others that was giving all the information, but you guys did step up and offered that if they needed that help for the forgiveness, if they needed those balance sheets. And I think that was key. And to one of the things you hit on as far as how we did, we had an economist from UCLA report out to GSEC a few weeks ago, and I think I reported out to the council. What saved California's hide was a rural counties like ours, because the big metropolitan areas, Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Francisco, that didn't take the extraordinary steps to help their businesses stay afloat, such as the one example is we are going to be dealing with tonight, the outdoor dining. That's what kept our businesses going. That's what kept the GDP going. That's what's kept everything going. So to your latter point there about the education, I know we're working locally, the school district's not under our purview, but they've been working with Yuba College, and they get their first couple of years for free. But also there's the pilot program to where you can go in, and by the time you graduate high school, some students already have their AA and they have their high school diploma. And so I think that's heading down the right avenue. But how do we further development? We have to have job creation here. And I look forward to the city and this council, because we have the Business Retention Task Force, finding out what our employers need and then bringing that back, and then hopefully being able to launch out across our community to figure out how EDC, the chamber, everything fits in to this wagon wheel to grow jobs here. Because I think we're down the right avenue with the education to try to afford them the education here, but we also got to have jobs here. And so I definitely, as one of the council members, want to see more jobs in this area, more business attraction. We got to take care of who's here, but we also have to bring more in if we're expecting them to go to college, and whether it's technical school or get an AA or a bachelor's, we got to make them want to stay here as well. So, but thank you.
The next year or so, we really have to focus on our existing businesses. Their workforce demands are much greater than they have supply of. Many of them are shutting down several days a week, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got to fix that problem, stabilize them, then grow the economy.
And unfortunately, and I'm going to sound political here for a minute, but I'll ask for forgiveness later. We don't have the power to change that.
Right.
Because that's the governor and the state legislature, and at some point we have to stand up as a state and do what over 22 other states have said: enough is enough, let's get back to work. And that'll start turning it around.
And so do our employers.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you.
Brenda, thank you. Cynthia, thank you for what you've done, especially through COVID. I mean, unprecedented times. And as you mentioned, I think, people doing things that they hadn't traditionally had to do, but but you guys stepped up to the plate, and I know that there are businesses throughout our community and throughout our city that have benefited from that. I want to ring the bell a little bit for ag because of what's going on with water right now. It's probably, they're getting tired of probably hearing this at the staff level, but if I was visiting a local automobile dealer, they don't have anything to sell. And the ag folks in our community, which is a big driver in our community, are going to be stressed with issues related to the lack of water. So I know you're on top of this probably already, but here's I'm kind of lobbing something your way. Is that that's a segment of our business community that is likely to be potentially impacted in a very negative way on top of what has already happened. So
And that impacts every other industry
Right.
across our community.
yeah.
From
So anyway,
boot sales to tire sales to all the way
fertilizer,
up.
seed, tractors, everything else. So anyway, appreciate what you guys have done. Like I said, stepped up in unprecedented times, and I always look forward to hearing what's going on and what you guys are up to. So thank you for being here tonight, both of you.
Happy to do it.
Are you willing to take questions from the public if they have them? All right, any questions from the public? Anything, Sarah, online?
No public comment.
I guess. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Through the mayor,
Yeah,
we need to adopt a resolution.
thank you. That's on my next page.
Oh, I thought you were going to the next agenda item, sorry.
All right, may I have a motion?
I move that we adopt a resolution to approve the 2020 CBAD's performance report and updated appendices, and authorize the submittal to the United States Department of Commerce and Economic Development Administration.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you.